For the next step of the project, you're going to need to stretch your fabric over an embroidery hoop. Embroidery hoops have two parts, an inside circle and an outer circle. To separate them, you may need to loosen the screw. So try to remember lefty-loosey, righty-tighty. You may have to twist that little screw to the left to make it loose enough to separate them. Take your fabric off the background paper, and then the solid loop goes underneath your fabric, and the loop with the screw is going to go on top. So I'm going to slide the solid loop underneath, center my my artwork, and then the other loop goes over the top. When you press it down, if it feels too tight because of the fabric, you may have to readjust that screw again. So I'm going to take the loop off if it doesn't fit, and there I need to loosen it up just a little bit more, and then I'm going to press it down and see if I can get a nice tight fit with my fabric. Now is also a good time to take the piece of tape that has your name on it and attach that to a corner of your fabric. You don't want to just put it on the back because you don't want to be stitching through this piece of tape. So just up in the corner somewhere, please put your tape back on there, and so that your name is ready to go. The next thing you need to do is cut a piece of yarn about the length of your arm, and you're going to thread your needle and tie a knot. If the yarn is too thick to go through the needle, you can make a little needle threader with a scrap of paper. It's folded like a hot dog bun. So think of it as the thread is the hot dog, and then the bun is going to hold the thread so you can slide that right through the eye of the needle. Crisscross the end of your thread to make a loop. Put the end of the string through the loop, and that knot is going to help to hold your needle onto the yarn. And then at the end, you're going to do that again. So crisscross the threads to make a loop, put the end of the yarn through the loop, and pull a knot right down onto the end of your yarn. I want to show you that part again. So I'm going to use a scrap of paper, like a hot dog bun, to hold the yarn. The yarn goes in the middle of the folded piece of paper. It has to be narrow enough to fit through the eye of the needle. Pull it through, and then you need to tie a knot to hold the yarn on the needle. So you notice the needle is in the middle of the knot. I'm not tying a knot at the end of the string. When I get to the end of the other side of the yarn, I am going to tie a knot. So make a loop, put the end of the yarn through the loop, and now you have a knot on both ends, and you're ready to try the running stitch. The running stitch is going to be like a dolphin going up and down through the waves of the ocean, and it looks like a dotted line. You always want to start on the back. So I'm going to poke the needle up through the back of the fabric, right down there in the corner of my shirt, and I'm going to make my needle dive up and down through the burlap. So I'm going to go down through the front, pull the needle all the way until the yarn runs out, and then I'm going to come up through the back, pull the needle all the way until the yarn comes out, and just keep going up and down, making a nice little dotted line. You're going to stitch that dotted line all the way around your shape. And when you're finished with your shape, you need to tie a knot at the end. And the hard part is you want to try to get that knot to land as close to the fabric as you can. So make sure your needle is on the back of your fabric. You're going to crisscross the yarn to make a loop. And then just do your best to push that knot as close to the fabric as you can. Can you see right here I have my needle inside the loop, because the needle can also help you really push that knot down. So then take a pair of scissors and just cut off the extra yarn, and you're going to be ready for your next shape. The next stitch that I want to share with you, and the last one today, is called the satin stitch. The satin stitch is when, instead of doing a dotted line like the running stitch, you do lines that go up and down and that are next to each other, and it helps to fill in a solid shape. This might be something you want to try for your hair, or you might want to try the running stitch for your hair. That's going to be up to you. So I cut the yarn about the length from my fingertips up to my shoulder. I'm going to thread the yarn through my needle. You can use the paper needle threader if it helps you. Tie the knot on the needle so you make a loop. Put the string through the back of the loop. And you're also going to need a knot on the other end of that yarn. So once again, make a loop, crisscross the yarn, put the end through the loop, and pull your knot. Now I'm ready to start my satin stitch. Remember that you always want to start on the back so the knots are hidden. I usually part my hair on the side, so I'm going to start at the top, just poke that needle around until you find the right spot to pull it through. Make sure you pull the yarn all the way until it hits your knot, and then choose the spot where you're going to go back through the fabric. So remember, if your needle is on the back, you want to go through the back. If your needle is on the front, you want to go through the front. I want to show you one mistake that almost everybody in here will make at least once because I want you to know how to undo it. So I'm going along with my little satin stitch. I'm going from the front to the back, from the back to the front. And all of a sudden I realized, oh no, look, I wrapped my yarn all the way around my embroidery hoop and I want to undo that. So the easiest thing you can do is go and see if you can undo that stitch. So take a really close look of where that last stitch came out and see if you can get your needle to go through that exact same hole. Every once in a while, you just have to untie your needle to pull the yarn through, and that's okay if this is something that happens to almost everybody, and you have the skill to troubleshoot to undo that mistake. And when you're done with this piece of yarn, you're going to turn your project over and do your best to get a knot as close to the fabric as you can. Sometimes you just have to tie 2 or even 3 knots before you figure out how to get it close to the fabric. You can try using that needle trick that I showed you to pull that knot down, and then cut off your yarn. And if you're ready, you can get a new color and start again.